What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files, where we talk about our favorite fantasy books and topics. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July. If you live in the part of town that I do, then you probably weren't able to distinguish the fireworks from the gunshots. That's okay, though. I am, of course, your host today, Spencer, and Gabe is dead, but we're moving on. And it's all right. Joining me today is my lifelong friend, Chris. How are you doing?
Pretty well, Spencer. How you doing?
Good. I should let everyone know that even though we're not exactly a family-friendly show usually, today will be especially raunchy because we are talking about the first book in the Gentleman Bastard series, The Lies of Locke Lamora, and we're going to quote the hell out of it. So hide the kids under the bed and get yourself a drink, settle in for about an hour. For the 5 of you who actually listen to this podcast, you're probably wondering where the Scythe episode is. And it's still coming, but Chris got a hold of me the other day and said that he finished the Lies of Locke Lamora. So I wanted to take the opportunity to discuss that a little bit. But we are currently reading the Scythe series, which will probably be recorded in 2 parts, actually, because I forgot how long that series is. It's just as long as any fantasy series that we've talked about. It probably took me about as long to read as it took me to read Mistborn. And there's so many things in that world. Neil Shusterman does such a good job of the world building, and he brings up so many existential questions that we're gonna want to talk about in depth. So we're thinking the first episode of that will be the first 2 books, because those go together rather well and they're on the shorter side. And then the second episode will be the 3rd book, because that is definitely the longest book, and it's kind of a style change from the first 2 books. So if you haven't read the whole thing yet, then just read the first couple. We'll do the episode, and we won't spoil the 3rd book in that episode at all. And then you can get caught up on the 3rd book and join us for the 2nd episode there. In order to get notified when those go up, please subscribe to our channel down below or follow us on Twitter at Files Fantasy. And don't forget to leave us a like on this video. That helps out a lot. Whew. All right. Well, with all the housekeeping out of the way, let's talk about, of course, what we've been reading. Chris, first of all, how was your 4th of July?
It was good, kind of low key. I spent it at the river, did some river things, and drank a few beers, but yeah, nice. Overall not too bad. Nice. How was yours?
Man, I didn't do anything. I stayed at home and I just started LA Noir, which we talked about a little bit.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so I played some LA Noir. And I am so fortunate that my dog does not care about fireworks at all.
That is very fortunate.
Yeah, it was surprising. Like he could not give a crap about the fireworks. I don't think he even really noticed them. So it was kind of nice to be able to hang out at home. I didn't have to babysit him too much.
That is nice. Yeah, absolutely.
But man, there was a lot of stuff going on. I'm not sure if it was Ocean Shores or if it was over in Port Orchard, but I saw a video of just all these people on the beach, and it looked like a war zone.
Right.
Just like these explosions, like not like out on the water, like right there on the beach, like like between people, like there was all these explosions. I'm like, this looks super dangerous, but it looks awesome.
So was that comment about gunshots just hyperbole or exaggeration, or?
Oh no, I mean, you know what kind of town I live in. Like I can never tell.
Yeah.
I can never tell what's a gunshot and what's a firework.
Right.
I also had a joke about Gabe getting mugged in an alleyway, but I decided to cut it out. I didn't know if it would land or not, so.
Oh, that's fine.
All right, so what? So you just finished Locke Lamora. You got a hold of me the other day. and you're like, I just finished this book, I'm satisfied with it. We'll talk about what you thought about it in a minute. But were you reading anything at the same time as that, or are you moving on to anything else now?
No, I was not reading anything at the same time. I gotta usually do one at a time for the books. So yeah, I finished Lies of Locke Lamora, and I've begrudgingly gone back to Dark Tidings.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm on that third book, listening to the audiobook of King's Dark Tidings. So
okay,
making my way through it. It's not bad so far. But I'm being diligent about that so we can get that episode in the future.
no worries. There's plenty of books to talk about in the meantime.
Okay.
Yeah. So, God, what was I gonna say about that? Oh, so do you think? So you're going on to Dark Tidings right now out of obligation, but yes. Do you think do you think that if Dark Tidings wasn't a thing, you would be moving on to the next Locke Lamora book?
Possibly. I'd say I would probably take a break. I mean, this first book wrapped up really nicely in a way that I was satisfied with. Just to spoil it right away, Jean and Locke ride off into the sunset, essentially, right? And that was okay. That was okay with me. I was like, this is a good ending. Wrapped up almost all the threads. I do have some questions.
Yeah.
But what would bring me back to the Locke Lamora series is less, I have to know what happens next. It's less that. It's more that I just enjoy being in Locke's head so much and listening to that character speak and interact with people. That's what would bring me back to the series. So, well,
I'm glad that you say that, because I was going to talk about this down below, but okay. Let me kind of sell you on the next couple books real quick. So there is the I gotta know what happens next kind of goes way down.
Okay.
And it's not so much like I'm on the edge of my seat and I have to know what happens.
Right.
But it is just so enjoyable.
Okay.
It is simply fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's the plot from here kind of, I wouldn't say it goes downhill. The second book is very much, you kind of get to the end of the second book and you're like, what the hell was what was he thinking when he was writing this? Because he's trying to tell 2 or 3 different stories at the same time.
Huh.
And they kind of get some that you wish weren't diminished get really diminished, and then others that are like, oh, this is fun, gets brought up a lot more in the storyline.
Okay.
And but that's not the reason you're reading the second book. Once you get into the second book, it is just a ton of fun. And I wouldn't be spoiling anything because it says right on the back of the book, but just picture this.
Okay.
Locke and Jean become pirates.
Oh, Lord.
So it's just a ton of fun. And I think one of the funniest scenes in the whole series happens in the second book. And I don't think this is spoiling anything either, but they are rock climbing.
Oh my gosh.
And this guy tries to rob them. And I don't want to give anything away, but that scene is just thinking about it, I'm cracking up. That scene is one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a book, I think. And I think I even texted you and Gabe, and I was like, I'm sitting in a Home Depot parking lot because I can't leave my truck. I'm listening to this scene and I'm crying,
oh yes,
laughing.
Yes, I do remember that.
I'm I can't go inside. But yeah, and then the third book, I would say the third book is my favorite. It gets back to more of what the first book is. It still doesn't have that super gritty like grabbing you kind of story that the first book does, but it has a way better story than the second book, and it's Locke, it's Locke Lamora.
Okay.
So it's all like super fun. So from here on out, you can kind of table the expectations of like this really like enticing story that you really have to pay attention to.
Okay.
And really just kind of enjoy the ride, because that's what the next two books are. Like,
okay.
It's like the next two seasons of the TV show. You know what I mean? Like it's just the next thing that he goes on to do. So
okay,
it's a lot of fun.
That sounds interesting, and it's refreshing in a way to just be in something simply for the characters. I mean, epic fantasy stories are great, like Game of Thrones, of course, but when it spans out over 7 or 8 novels and it gets a lot to keep track of, it's nice just to have something where you're like, man, I just enjoy reading about this character.
Yeah, no, it's totally like a popcorn book.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Just like enjoying it, eating your popcorn, and just enjoying the story you're being told.
Okay.
It's very much like that.
One thing real quick. Do we ever learn Locke's real name? Is that ever revealed?
We do. Yeah.
It is? Okay. Don't tell me, obviously.
Okay. I won't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was sort of alluded to at the end of the first book, or hinted at. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes a central plot point.
Okay. Interesting.
All right, so let me jump back a step. Let me jump back a step and tell you what I've been reading. So, Gabe and I found this hidden gem of a series called the Shadow Saga.
Okay.
And the first one is called Shadow's Son, and it's essentially a story about an assassin. And much like the Gentleman Bastards, it's not really it was kind of refreshing, because a lot of these like assassin novels are like these kind of like anti-heroes who like, I kill the bad guys, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And this guy is just an assassin who takes contracts on people for money, and that's it. And it doesn't make any excuses for him. It doesn't make any like he does have like redeeming qualities, but like it's not this like this assassin with a higher purpose kind of thing. You know what I mean?
He's just a pure assassin.
Yeah, okay. he's just an assassin. And I think the best part about the books is he's got this sidekick named Kit, who is essentially a ghost who only he can see. And so yeah, when he's infiltrating somewhere to like kill somebody, she can like fly through walls and like go through the place and like tell him what's up ahead and all sorts of cool stuff like that. And it makes it really, she is like my favorite character in the series, and she's super like ditzy and fun.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And so she's kind of like the comedic relief. But most of all, I listened to the series in graphic audio. I forget. Do you know what that is? Graphic audio?
No. Well, is that where they add sound effects and stuff? And
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have like,
yeah.
They have like music, and like if there's like a chain swinging, you'll hear the chain and stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
And they did such an amazing job with it. And there's a whole cast of characters. There's like there's at least like 10 to 15 people that all play different voices. And so that was a lot of fun. And as you know, I really like the romances in these fantasy books.
Yeah.
And this had one of the most surprisingly good romance plot lines that I've seen in most of the books I've read. I wouldn't say it's like my number one favorite, but it's definitely like in my top 5. And it was so it has a
satisfying sort of resolution or conclusion. Okay.
Yeah, it has. Oh yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but
sure.
the ending is super satisfying. I was like, at the end of it, I had like a grin from ear to ear. And I was just like, that was the most perfect ending. And it, of course, because it's the graphic audio version, it ended with like kind of this sweeping Lord of the Rings type
Like
orchestral.
yeah, okay, score.
I was like,
Okay.
oh, this is perfect. So yeah, I really like that. It's by John Sprunk, and he literally has like no other works. His website has not been updated since like 2016.
Oh no.
And so he's just like I don't know what happened to him. He just like did these books and dropped the mic and walked out.
That's it.
It's like, okay. And I think he has a couple other smaller titles, but nothing like this. And
Okay.
so it's kind of interesting to see like this random one-off series from an author, and it was very good. I highly recommend everyone goes and checks it out. Oh, one more thing about it. Not only that, but it is a insanely quick read. I read all 3 books in 2 days.
Oh, there's only 3 of them?
Yeah, it's a trilogy.
Okay.
And
cool.
And I listened to them in 3 days. I think each book was like maybe 7 hours long. And so
that's not bad at all. Okay.
Yeah. So I just burned through them super quick, and it was a great quick read.
Good. Okay.
On top of that, I have of course been reading Scythe.
Right. That's a different series. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it, juggle multiple books at once.
Well, I don't always read 2 at the same time. Sometimes I do, or sometimes I'll read one like halfway through, jump to another book, read that halfway through, and then finish the last one.
Okay.
But I did Scythe all in one go this time, and man, I haven't read them in years, and I couldn't believe I totally forgot how in love with these books I am. Chris, I really, really, really think you should read them.
Scythe.
Yeah, I really, despite your what's the word, misgivings about it being like a young adult series,
right?
It is so not that. Like it is so much more than that, and it is so it asks like so many questions about, because in the world of Scythe, they live in a utopia, and I'm not going to explain the book. We've talked about it on the podcast so many times about what this book's about. Okay. But I've told you, right? I've told you what it's about.
I believe so, that there's everyone can live forever, so there's certain people that are designated to essentially cull the
yeah, exactly. And so there's all these like super existential questions about what is a perfect society, and is that good for the human race? Like is it good for the human race to have a supercomputer take care of everything, and when it does, what does that do to society, and how does that does it turn us humans into these really soft beings who can't take care of themselves?
Right.
And so that's kind of a big question in the series. It's really, really worth reading. There was multiple times that I was just like crying and laughing, and at the end of the book I was crying. Matter of fact, I just listened to the last chapter the other day.
Yeah.
And as I do with every book, the last like 10 or 20 minutes of the book, I just stopped what I was doing and I laid in my bed just to listen to the rest of it and just kind of enjoy it. And the end of the book happens, and I don't even realize, because I'm not like sobbing, but like I have tears like running down my face.
Wow.
And I had my phone in my hand, and my friend David called me, and I didn't mean to, but I answered the phone, and the book had just ended, and I'm like, hello.
Is this a bad time?
He's like, are you crying? I'm like, I just finished a book. He's like, oh my God. He knows I cry every time I finish it.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So it was super embarrassing. But that book is it's so good, and it's so impactful. The characters just stick with you long after they're gone. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's just one of those books that even though I've read I've pretty much read 2 books since I finished Scythe, and I still think about it every day.
Okay. Yeah, the premise sounds interesting. I'll admit that. It sounds like there could
Yeah,
be a lot of interesting concepts explored. So
it's really good, and it gets super it doesn't hold back with talking about darker subject material. Like it doesn't really, even though it's a young adult book, it doesn't put any gloves on when it comes to talking about death and that kind of stuff. So
okay.
yeah. All right. So then after Scythe, you told me that you had just finished Lies of Locke Lamora. So this weekend I reread that.
Nice.
I put it on 1.5 speed.
Wow, that Jesus.
Yeah. And you know what's funny about that? What I was going to tell you was I had never done, excuse me, I had never done that before. And I put it on 1.5 speed. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. But it's so crazy what the human brain does. Within minutes, my brain, it like tricked me into thinking that it was like normal speed.
Oh, wow.
And so like within minutes, I was able to perfectly understand it. In my head, it just sounded like my brain downloaded it as a normal speed book, if that makes sense. It was super weird. And then near the end of the book, of course, I wanted to savor the ending. And so I turned it back down to 1 speed, just like the regular speed. And it literally sounded like he was speaking in slow motion. Wow. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I didn't know that that's what the brain did when you're adapting. This. Yeah. So yeah, I read that, and that was awesome to go back through that. Also say, Gabe just read Nevernight. I can't remember who the author is, but he read Nevernight, which is a grimdark book about a female assassin, and he said it was really, really good, and he would recommend it. So anybody who's looking for that kind of book, I would pick up Nevernight. And he's reading Scythe. Perfect. So something, we talk about fantasy books on this podcast, but I think video games are kind of fantasy too.
Yeah, for sure.
You just finished Dishonored, which was a game that I was championing for a while.
Right. Correct.
What I don't think I've really gotten to talk to you about what you thought about it.
Oh man, I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't call myself someone that's a diehard fan of stealth games per se.
Right.
I really enjoyed the original Splinter Cell, but I'm trying to think. I feel like that's kind of the only quote unquote stealth game that I've
never played the sneaky archer in Skyrim?
No, I was not really an archer. I was more of a battle mage that would go in there with an enchanted mace and like channeling destruction spells and that kind of thing.
Okay. So, nice.
But yeah, I found the gameplay loop to be very, very enjoyable. I loved the abilities; they were creative.
Yeah.
And one thing that just really added to it was the sound design.
Oh,
and you get kind of your generic like guard sounds and stuff, like what was that? I heard something. But what I really loved was the sound effects on the abilities.
Spells. Yeah.
So like I was playing with these headphones, and every time you activate an ability, it's a different sound effect. And then like, so when you charge it up, like you're about to use it or you aim it, it's a sound effect. And then when you release it and actually cast a spell, it's an additional sound effect. And I wish I could do it justice over the microphone, because I'm not gonna try, but it added so much because I felt like I was channeling this like otherworldly magic, and I just love the deep like guttural sounds. It was sick. I really loved that. That was just a really nice touch, I thought.
Yeah, real quick, you know what also, it's kind of a common joke. The other really satisfying sound effect in that game is the sound of a when you eat an apple. Just that perfect like
That crunch
sound. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's true. That is true. That's funny. I didn't realize that was a meme though. That makes sense though. It is.
Yeah.
The perfect crunch sound.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I was sort of, I don't know. At first, when you kind of said it's like, yeah, the goal is to kind of be stealthy. I was like, I mean, that's
Right.
kind of fun, but it's also kind of fun to just use abilities to shoot, slash at things and shoot at things and cast magic at things. But I actually, once I got into it, I was like, yeah, it is fun to try to, sneak around people or take people out non-lethally as opposed to just going in there guns blazing with grenades and traps and stuff. I played it where I wasn't the person that, I did save scum. I reloaded some saves, here and there, but it was the kind of thing where if I got surprised by a guard and it's, I had to kill him, then I just kept going. It was like, that was it. It's like just a casualty of, but I still got the low chaos ending. But overall, a really good game. I was very, very happy with it. The graphics are a little dated, but like you said, your brain adapts. Yeah. And I was right back in, when did this come out? Early 2010s? Was it that late? 2014? I don't know when that game came out, but
yeah, the second one was in
2017, I thought.
Yeah. So I think the first one must have been like 2012 or 2013 or something.
Okay, like that. Yeah, but I mean, my brain transported back to 2012, and I was like, this is the top. These are top end graphics, like this.
Right. Oh yeah, for the time they were extraordinary.
Yeah.
Especially graphics like that. They it's kind of the whole World of Warcraft discussion. Like the graphics aren't realistic, but they don't need to be because they're kind of cartoony, like BioShock.
Right.
And so they're almost kind of timeless.
It definitely gives you a BioShock vibe for sure with that art style.
Right. What did you think of the story? Were you pretty surprised when everybody at the Hound Pits pub turned on you? Or did you see it coming?
I kind of saw it coming. I didn't explicitly think in my head, these guys are going to betray me, but I sort of thought that they weren't trustworthy.
Right.
I never really liked Pendleton, a noble.
Yeah.
Dirty noble, but
yeah.
So I guess I just wasn't too surprised. And then as soon as the screen started getting wavy, I knew I'd been poisoned. I was like, oh yeah, shit, I got poisoned. Here it comes. I'm getting betrayed. So
what did you do you remember what the other big reveal is, or did you see it from the beginning about Emily?
Oh man, am I forgetting something huge? What about her? That she is probably your daughter? Yeah,
she's Corvo's daughter. You find it in were you the kind of person that went through and like read every single notebook and stuff?
I did. Is this the thing that was behind the fireplace in the palace?
There was that, but there was also like Admiral Havelock at the end. It's in his journal, and it's in a couple other places.
Literally in the last level, or
yeah.
Oh, and it just says what exactly?
I forget. It was something. It was talking about Corvo, and he was like, because he was just writing in his journal, and he was like, does Corvo know that Emily is his daughter?
Oh wow. Okay, I might have missed that journal then in that last level. I listened to the audio recording that he had, but the okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew that he was his daughter. It was kind implied.
Figured. Right. Yeah. So yeah, and then you're going on to the DLC, right?
Yes. So I'm taking a break, or I'm getting sidetracked. I've started the DLC with the assassin leader Dodd, I guess his name is. But I also started playing Doom 2016, and that's a pretty short game. So I was just looking for something a little more mindless, where I could just fight demons. So that's been fun. And I think that's going to be a quick game.
Is that a good would that be a good audiobook game where I could just put an audiobook on and just kill things?
Yes, you don't have to pay attention to the story in Doom at all.
Oh, really?
I mean, you could. It like makes it more mildly interesting, but it's not groundbreaking. It's not.
Okay.
You're there. You're there for the gameplay and for
right, for sure. Okay. Well, nice. Oh, also, did you try Dark Alliance?
No, I watched some gameplay videos of it, but I haven't actually downloaded it and played it. But it looks kind of interesting. I bet it'd be fun with the group.
Yeah, I think the only way it would be fun is with a group. I tried playing it a little bit and I was like,
boring.
I was like, I'm like, this might be fun with people, but it's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
But yeah, all right, let's see, what, like 20, 30 minutes in, let's talk about Lies of Locke Lamora.
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Okay, so I already sold you on the next two books.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about what were your general opinions of the series. Like, what did you expect going in, and what did you end up feeling like halfway through the book, and then how did you feel after it? Like a 3-stage process here.
Sure. Yeah. So I had no expectations essentially going into this book. I had never heard of it. I had not heard of the author even. I basically, my impression was formed literally by the cover of the book, right? Which you're not supposed to do. I
do it all the time.
But it intrigued me, kind of, the thief story, and it sounded interesting. And I guess the book started off a little slow for me.
Yeah.
Just because at first when they do the time jumps, you're kind of like, wait, what? It takes a little bit to get into the frequent time jumps that occur in the book. Once those start, once I was used to it though, in the flow, and you kind of came to expect them, it's like, okay, something big just happened in the present. This next chapter is probably going to be a time jump. And it was.
Yeah.
And, I started to appreciate them, and I like to see like the insights into their earlier life in the, with father chains and stuff. So I liked that.
I'm so glad you said that, because that was, I tried reading this book about a year ago, and because of the time jumps, I just had no idea what was happening.
Okay.
And I think what it really came down to was it just wasn't the kind of book that I was looking for at the time. And, but the time jumps totally confused me, and they confused me when I read this time. And I actually had to go on to Reddit, and I was like, this book isn't explaining, like, why are these two different things happening? Like, because the book doesn't tell you that it's a time jump.
Right.
Really, aside from saying eventually you learn that it says interlude, and that's the time jump.
Yes.
And they have different names for them in the second and third book. So keep an eye out for that. I think they're called prologues and other different names, but it's the same thing. Okay. And that was something that really, really threw me off it for a while. And it wasn't until I was probably like 30% of the way through the book that I started to get into it. But I'm sorry, please continue about how you felt now halfway through it.
Sure. So like I said, slow start, because it takes a little bit to get used to the time jumps. Once I did, it was crystal clear. I was fine. The middle of the book, things get exciting, and I just wanted to keep reading to find out what was happening next. And mostly I just couldn't believe the misfortune, I guess, of our clever, lucky Locke Lamora. It's like bad thing after bad thing kept happening to him. I was like, damn, no way. Like, I could not believe the shit this guy has gone through.
Yeah.
And then, sort of the last third of the novel or so, it's like, all right, things are coming together. Locke is starting to wrap things up. It comes to a really satisfying ending. I thought it wrapped up really nicely, and I didn't really have any problems with pacing or anything like that. I thought it wrapped up really nicely, and
right.
Yeah, I finished it. And I was like, that was a decent read. It was good. It was a good read. It was fun.
Yeah, I would say the first book is very much standalone in the same way that Mistborn is.
Okay.
like, the first Mistborn, where you could read the first Mistborn book and it would be a good single book. You know what I mean?
It's true. Yeah.
Like I don't know, Mistborn didn't really leave me with the feeling of like, I have to, in order to even understand the story, I have to go on to the second one. Like, I felt like I could have left.
You were like you're like the Lord Ruler's dead. I'm satisfied.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the rest of the rest of the Gentleman Bastards doesn't escalate in the same way that
Mistborn really escalated.
Yeah, right. It's just a fun story.
Okay.
But yeah, cool. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you got to read it. I'm sure many people have been hooked by the cover. Because it is a very good cover. I was going to ask you, did you ever read Oliver Twist for school or anything?
I did, yeah, at some point in my life, yes.
Is it in any way similar to Locke Lamora? Like, is it, because Oliver Twist becomes a thief, right?
Yeah, there's parallels, I guess, with Oliver Twist being an orphan and all, and coming from meager means, I suppose.
Okay.
And then I think, if I remember, he joins a gang, but they're like pickpockets. Like they're not doing anything on the level,
right?
With the sort of audacity that Locke and his Gentleman Bastards perform crime.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember, but I think Oliver Twist takes a different twist after his life of crime.
Okay. All right. Well, I was also going to ask, did you ever play Assassin's Creed Unity?
No, that was one I didn't play. Yeah.
Dang it, because I was going to tell you that I think whoever came up with the idea of like the main character in Assassin's Creed Unity, actually a couple of the characters, like directly parallels Locke Lamora. Like,
okay.
Like in so many ways, like the characters are the exact same person, and it's such a similar, like there's so many parallels. And every time, whenever I was reading Locke Lamora, I pictured Arno from that Assassin's Creed game.
Interesting. Okay.
And there's a girl named Elise in that game who is very much Sabbatha.
So okay, that's interesting that you say that, because in the first book you get no inclination or inkling of who Sabbatha is or what she's about.
Yeah, so that was something that was really interesting, that they kind of left open-ended.
Yeah.
And you get to see throughout the next couple books, there will always be flashbacks to Locke's childhood.
Okay.
So, you'll see lots of the characters that we love again, and you'll see, you'll get to see Sabbatha.
That's good. Okay.
I was also going to mention, for any of you guys that really like this series, you might want to check out Child of the Night Guild. It almost sounds like the exact same story as Lies of Locke Lamora. And that's by, what's his name? Andy Peliquin. I haven't read either of these, but I've heard they're very good. The other one is called Gutter Prayer by Gareth Hanrahan. So if you like this book, you might want to check those out. Let's talk about the author.
Sure.
There's really not much to say about him. His Wikipedia page is very, very small. There's almost like no information. And as far as I know, this is the only the only series he's written. I wasn't able to find any other works. I could be totally wrong, but there wasn't anything else on his Wikipedia page.
Okay.
He does have a fourth book in the works. The last update that we got on it was that he had finished the draft and was submitting it to his editor. And I think that was in I want to say the end of the year in 2019.
Okay.
So we haven't really heard a lot since then, but he's also had a lot going on in his personal life that we probably don't need to talk about on the podcast. But I know there's been a lot going on there. So it might be people are hoping for, optimistically hoping for the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022.
Okay.
Michael Page, the narrator, you really like the narrator, right? I got you to switch.
Yeah, I was reading the novel and you said you have to have the audiobook. And so I got the audiobook as well. And I think the way to do it is to have both, because, I would listen to the audiobook in the car while I'm driving, or, at night before I go to bed. But then, sometimes I would just crack open the novel and read it the good old fashioned way.
Yeah.
And, if I wanted a refresh, like flip back a few pages because I missed something in the audiobook, I could go look at it in the book, and then, or vice versa, I'd read something and there'd be a scene. It's like, oh man, I really want to hear the audiobook version of this.
Right.
So I'd go listen to that again. And
for sure.
So, yeah, it was a good method, but I love the narrator. He was amazing. Like, I was amazed at his ability to, I guess, just create all the different styles of voices that he did.
Yeah.
He did a great job with women, better than I think the
Nick Podell.
Yes, than he does in King's Dark Tidings. He did a really good job with women, and just every character had a distinct voice somehow.
Yeah.
And I mean, even Locke himself had several distinct voices for each one of his personas. For each one of his disguises that he uses to con people out of their crowns. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
I was gonna ask you, did you like the narrator's version of Locke's like you'll probably hear it more in the second and third book, but at the end of the first book where he's like just that weary, like drunk or self-deprecating, like, leave me, John.
Yes.
Just like that. I can't do the voice, but you leave me, just like, oh man, I wish I could do it justice, but he does
just
such
near death, just wishy-washy.
He did such a good job of like Locke's just pathetic sounding type voice. I loved it.
That was very good.
I obviously mostly all I read is or listen to is audiobook versions. But if you like switching back and forth, have you heard of Whisper Sync?
No.
Do you have a tablet or anything? Or I guess you could do it on a laptop.
Yeah, I have an iPad.
So you could download the Kindle app or whatever, and have it on your have the book on your Kindle and read through it that way if you like doing that. But also that is connected to Audible. So you could go to a certain point on your tablet and read through it and then switch directly over to the audio version.
Wow.
And it would pick right up.
That is pretty useful. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I haven't tried it yet. But I know a lot of people really, really like it. And that's their like primary way that they read.
Okay.
I don't really like reading stuff on a tablet. I
haven't tried that myself too much either.
Yeah, I do for as many audiobooks as I listen to. That's only because I really want to listen to them at work. I really do love reading stuff on paper, and it's just a nice way to do it. I was going to mention so the narrator's name is Michael Page.
Okay.
And he has also done Malazan, the Book of the Fallen. And did you know that there's 2 Elder Scrolls books, like legitimate Elder Scrolls books?
It doesn't surprise me, but they were not on my radar. No.
Yeah. So I guess he did those too. I haven't read any of those. I know Malazan is really popular, but I would love to hop over to the Elder Scrolls books because I was pretty surprised.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I addictively consume anything that is Elder Scrolls.
That's Elder Scrolls, yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the type of storytelling. It's in third person, mostly following Locke. Mm-hmm. Kind of an omniscient narrator that will tell about things going on throughout the world, and then kind of jump back to Locke and tell semi from his perspective. Like it'll tell us
Right.
like what he's thinking and stuff.
Yes.
And then the time jumps. The time jumps are going back and forth, giving us a peek at Locke's origin story. And there's so many times where it hops back and it'll tell you something that happened in the past that's relevant for the next scene coming
exactly
up.
exactly and I actually love that, because
yeah
even that had some humor in certain instances.
oh yeah
I loved how I think there was one where they go back and they tell the story about like the bonds magi, like how a king like persecuted some of them, and so they literally burnt a city to the fucking ground, like his entire capital city to the fucking ground. And like the whole point of the story is like, don't fuck with the bonds magi. And then like the next chapter, we're back in the present and Locke is fucking with the bonds magi.
the next scene literally opens up with Locke saying, "Nice bird, asshole."
Yes, exactly. Yes. It's just like, dude, we just got a lesson in like why you don't fuck with these guys.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah,
that was so good.
So they were appreciated in a lot of cases. I liked the time jumps. It's like, okay.
The other time jump that I really liked, that always, like, even the second time through it put a huge smile on my face, was where the time jumps weren't right next to each other, but it was the story about how this other gang, they were kids, and this other gang was in town and they were like beating the hell out of them. And Locke makes a thing to hold down one of the kids, and
right.
Locke is John is hiding down the street, and the kid's like, "Just give up. Like, you can't beat me." He's like, "I don't have to beat you. I just have to wait until Jean gets back."
Yeah.
And then it hops to the future. And what's the actual quote? I have
to keep you here until Jean gets back or something.
Yeah, I just have to keep you here until Jean gets back. And it jumps forward, and it's with the Grey King.
Right.
And he totally what's the word? Just foils the Grey King by like,
exactly,
like, Jean is on his way. I don't have to beat you. I just have to keep you here until Jean gets back. And it gives you, as the reader, did you have this moment where you were like, "Oh, is Jean coming? Like, is Jean about to?"
I was really hoping. I was like, Locke's not going to beat this guy. We need Jean.
Yeah. And so yeah, I really liked that moment. Yeah. So time jumps were great. Let's talk about the world building.
Sure.
So really not much to say here. The next two books really open up and show you more of the world. But what did you think of the city of Camor? Did you like it?
Yeah, I thought the city of Camor was described pretty well and fleshed out, and I could picture it as sort of this sprawling, dirty city that's spread out over this group of islands connected by canals, like you said. I think very much like Venice, which is cool. It's cool to think about. It's cool to picture. And I loved how they have all the different districts secluded to like each island. I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, we don't get a lot about other. We hear other cities mentioned.
Yeah.
And we hear other kingdoms mentioned, even like I think I want to say Emberlane is a is that in the Narrow Kingdom or something, or the Narrows or something? I don't know, but there are other kingdoms that we hear mentioned, but there's not a lot of talk about what their intentions are, what they're about. But yeah, so we're mostly exploring Camor, and I thought the Elder Glass was an interesting touch to have. So these basically sort of alien, indestructible glass towers that some precursor to the humans built. I mean, that sort of kind of reminds me of Halo, where you have the Forerunner, Forerunner structures. You remember those, like where you come, and so it's cool like that. It makes me curious. It makes me more curious about the world than I would have been if those hadn't been included.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely opens it up to kind of make you ask questions about the world and like who the Eldrin were, and all these really cool questions come up, especially in the next couple books, and we'll get to see a lot more of the world open up in the next two.
Okay.
Yeah, but other than that, big piece of the world building was there's a major plot point of the story is there's a secret peace between all of the thieves guilds and the Duke or the King.
Duke Nicovante. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And basically the nobility have all agreed to allow the Thieves Guild to steal from any of the common folk in order to keep them away from the nobility. They're like, you can mess with any merchant, any common person, as long as you don't breach the secret peace and mess with our nobility.
Right.
And the chains told them, he's like, you are to be a fucking ballista bolt into the heart of the secret peace.
That was the quote I was thinking of. Yes, exactly. And I like that about Chains, and Locke really takes that to heart, like just his audaciousness to just the way with which he breaks the secret peace so blatantly, but so cleverly.
We should take a minute. Let's I have the magic system next, but there really was no magic system. There was just the Bonds Magi doing a bunch of really soft magic.
Bullshit magic.
Yeah.
That no one else could do.
Magic, yeah. Just like way overpowered magic.
I felt so bad for Locke and the characters that were getting.
But yeah, let's talk about let's jump down to Father Chains real quick since we're kind of talking about him.
Sure.
He's the head of the Gentlemen Bastards, and we find out that he is deceased in the present day.
Right.
The thing that I thought was cool was the distinction between him and the Thief Taker. And in one of the first chapters, we see the Thief Taker say,
Thief Taker or Thief Maker?
Thief Maker, maybe. I might have. Yeah, Thief Taker would be something else. Thief Maker. He was saying if you're touching somebody for longer than half a second, then you're not doing it right. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
He's like, you're supposed to snatch and grab and run.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You're a cut purse.
Exactly.
Yep.
And Father Chains kind of had this more long con,
a whole different
kind
system.
of idea. He was. It's very much about staying in a person of nobility's company for a long period of time.
Yep.
And we see Locke Lamora having dinner with what's their name? I forget.
The Salvaras.
Salvaras.
Yeah. Yes.
And we see him having dinner with them, and all these different going to different events with them, having long conversations. And so he's not doing any sort of like breaking and entering. He's doing this long con that involves acting, which is something Chains taught them. Like he taught them all these different skills. Do you remember that? Like all these different, he's teaching them things that aren't necessarily thieving.
No, you're right. He taught them, economics. He taught them languages, like different languages. Just all the things that you would need. He taught them about etiquette within the nobility, even among, even just among the nobility of Camor, but even the etiquette among nobility in different countries or different cities.
Right.
They were extremely well educated, and Locke especially, and just the way of emulating someone or impersonating someone that you're not, right? And so they needed that knowledge to be able to do that effectively.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny that you that parallel between the Thief Maker is just if you're touching someone for more than half a second or whatever it is, then it's too long. But their system is you have a first touch and then a second touch, and all of these touches are like long drawn out conversations or sort of setups, with their target or whoever they're trying to con. So
right. Yeah. I very much liked. I went into this book expecting like a big bank heist or something, like a big going through windows and running rooftops and that kind of thing.
Right.
But I was really, I feel like I was really more satisfied with this long game that they do, especially when it gets to the end and Locke is doing things like stealing that guy's uniform at Miragio's. Dude.
Oh my Lord.
That is one of the best scenes. The first time that I read that, I was literally on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. And he goes through all this stuff just to get the suit. And man, I was matter of fact, the second time that I read through it, I was almost like surprised when right when he got the suit, he just left. And I was like, oh, that's right. All of this was just for a suit.
Right.
And I thought it was funny though. He took that guy back to the hotel or whatever, gave him some money, and he was like, I'm sorry, I can't explain why I had to do this. And the guy's just like, what the fuck? Like,
oh, he's like, what the fuck is going on? And he's just sobbing. Yeah, I felt so bad for that guy, but I mean, it was hilarious in the Locke Lamora way. Like,
yeah,
all right, he goes to this waiter. He's like, hey, I'll pay you money for your waiting outfit. And the guy's like, okay, cool, let's go. And then, and then he just double crosses him. It's like, this man betrayed you, Miragio. And then, then the dude is sobbing and crying and just like, please, I'm sorry, I messed up. And then Locke pulls a 180 on him again and is like, okay, sorry, I fucked you over, but here's some money. And now leave the city. And the guy's just supposed to be like, okay, yeah. It's just like the just again, audaciousness of Locke was hilarious in that scene. And I again, he was being more reckless, I guess, because he had to be, right? He was being brash because he was forced to, desperation. But it was a great scene.
Locke Lamora himself is such an interesting character because he doesn't make any excuses for who he is. He knows that he's a thief, and he's not like Robin Hood stealing money from the rich and giving it to the poor. He's just hoarding all this money because he likes stealing. Right. But somewhere underneath him is a halfway good person. Like, he didn't need to give that guy the money on the way out, or he didn't need to like get him out of there. But his conscience catches up with him sometimes. And I think he's an extremely well-written character.
Yeah, he is, because he does have a conscience, but he's also I was about to say he's not a killer, but he is a murderer, I think, technically, possibly. Like, he has killed people, but then what he did to the falconer was also pretty, it's pretty brutal. I mean,
my god,
it takes some cold heartedness to do what he did to the falconer. I hated the falconer, though. He totally deserved it, even after.
Right.
But still, it's just like, man, that was torture. That was an intense scene.
Especially when we see the falconer at the end of the book, and he's in that carriage or whatever in the epilogue.
Yes.
And oh my god, he's just completely messed up.
It's like, for the Duke's spider, he's just like, can't talk, no fingers.
Yeah. But Locke was super witty, super funny. Like, most of my favorite quotes are from Locke.
Absolutely.
And he just had the best wit about him. Just such a devil may care attitude. Just a fantastic ne'er-do-well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you think of Jean?
I really liked Jean. At first, I remember when I was first introduced to him, I didn't really know what to think of him. Like, I wasn't really sure if he was going to be important or not, or, but as he gets more fleshed out, like, there's that backstory that kind of goes into, when Father Chains brought him into the Gentleman Bastards to the temple of Pelelandro, and kind of brought him into the fold, and you kind of hear about his upbringing and how he's like from a wealthy merchant family whose parents were killed, and yeah, you kind of start to like the guy. And then, I love how I think the narrator did a really good job with him,
Yeah,
because the voice that he used for Jean, I pictured sort of like a gentle looking person that wasn't like a gruff like brute, you know what I mean? I don't know if that's the impression I should have gotten, but like I pictured some sort of, like I pictured like a rich merchant's son, like someone that's, and he was described as like a little overweight, but I
right,
pictured someone that wasn't like gruff looking, but someone that kind of maybe people might describe as gentle looking, or if not that, then it's probably intelligent, right? Like he doesn't look
right,
like a brawler.
right,
And then that was kind of like a cool characteristic to have him be the brawler of the group, just because
right.
of his
Yeah,
size, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, no, they matched, or Michael Page matched that voice to him very, very well. And that was the interesting thing, was when he came to the Gentleman Bastards, they were trying to figure out what to have him do, and they realized that he had this temper, and so then they sent him to that swordman, right? That sword master.
yes, the Don, one of the other Dons that trained him.
Yeah, that was awesome seeing him get better and better at that. And then he gets the wicked sisters from him, and he throws one into the dummy, and he's like,
Yes,
"Holy shit!"
this will work. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That scene where he fights the two sisters, their names escaping me, but the two,
I know what you're talking about.
the ladies that fight sharks.
Yeah,
They're called something too. Like, I could look it up in the book, but
Baranzia sisters
the
or something.
Baranzia sisters, yeah, and they're like, what's the name for the people that fight sharks? They're like,
I forget.
yeah. But when he fights those, when he fights those two sisters, that was one of the most exciting scenes in the book. I was
Yeah,
just like, oh my god, this is epic, and just
yeah,
the way the fight was described and how Jean reacted and stuff, I was like, holy shit, this is insane.
yeah.
And that's when you really realize that Jean's not just a good fighter; he's
He's like the best.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I think that's what the Falconer described him as. He's like, when he finds them at their hideout, he's like, if you beat the Barangian sisters, then you must have been a fantastic fighter. Like, that's,
right.
it's like, but
Yeah,
unfortunately I'm here now. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I really liked that part of his character, and you'll see in the second book some of the fights he gets into are really, really good.
okay.
Yeah, he's a great character. I loved his friendship with Locke.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes such a huge, like, core thing that holds these books together, in this book, but especially in the second and third book. Like, he is Locke's best friend, and that's the only thing he cares about being.
Huh.
And they are so close, and that like guides everything they do, is their friendship. And I would go so far as to say that this is probably one of the most well written friendships that I've seen in a fantasy series.
Wow.
Because especially when you get into the second book and stuff, just the way he writes them and the way they talk, like, they have their good days and they have their bad days. They have days that are in between, and they
Yeah.
have, like, the two of them just communicating in such a way where it's like, oh, I totally believe that these guys have known each other their entire lives,
Huh.
and that they've been through hell together.
See, like that alone makes me want to read the second book, like just to
Yeah.
see those. And I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, that's the main driving force of the next book, especially, is just to see more Jean and Locke. I grabbed a quote from him that just wraps Jean up in one sentence. He says, "I'll cover your back the quick and bloody way." I think
Yep.
he was saying it to Locke.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, let's go to Callow and Galdo. What did
Oh
you
yeah,
think of them?
they were entertaining.
Yeah.
They weren't fleshed out quite as well as Jean, but
Right.
I'd say in like maybe the first half of the book, they get about as much coverage as Jean. Like, I think in like the first half of the book, we know just as much about Carlo or Callow and Galdo that we know about Jean.
Right.
And I liked them, right? Like I got used to hearing in the audiobook, it's like there'd be a line and it would say said Callow, and then it'd be another line and it would say said Galdo. Like they always talked in pairs. It'd be like
Yeah.
said Callow, said Galdo. Like they always had something to say together, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
And they were clever, and they were enjoyable characters, but I don't know if there was anything that was what I guess what I would say call maybe nothing really defining about them other than that they were twins, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were still enjoyable characters, and I was sad.
Yeah, I was about to ask. So how did you feel when they died?
Very
was that
upset.
Shocking?
Very upset.
Were you expecting anybody to die like that?
You had kind of hinted that people die in this book.
Yeah. Well,
so I was expecting something. But I wasn't. Yeah, I didn't think they would die. I was really sad when they died and when Bug died. Bug was like
oh my God.
That was very sad with Bug. He was the young one, the up and coming gentleman bastard that was eager to please, just wanted to do right by.
He just wanted to be part of the crew.
Yeah. And he was, he was a go-getter. He got things done. Like when he jumped off that roof. It's like,
that was such a great character moment for him, because he was like, I can either, what were his options? Like go warn them, and then everything would fall, the whole plan would fall to shit, and they'd have to wait a whole week to do the plan. Or I could just jump off this roof and cause a distraction. It was like, man, that's such a cool, like, defining character moment for him.
I know. I loved it. I loved the commentary during it as well. Like, where it's like Bug analyzed his options and quickly realized his options were shit. It's like, and then they kind of go through his thought process where, like you said, he's like, well, he could shout a warning to them, but then, that the opportunity might prove elusive in the future and they might not get this chance again.
Right.
And so he's like, without thinking, he jumps off the roof, like screaming. And then when when the patrol comes and finds him, I just love how he like plays it up. He's like, watch, Sergeant. Come closer. Watch, Sergeant. He's like, what is it, son? Like,
he's like, your purse is a little light. Were you out late whoring last night?
The guy's just like, what? The look of bewilderment on his face. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But yeah, good characters overall. All three of those guys. Yeah. I was pretty sad when they died. I was upset. I was like, damn, that sucks.
And it's kind of like, man, like Scott Lynch is willing to just kill his crew. Like that's over half his crew. You know what I mean?
Right. In like the first half of the book.
Like,
I'll say though that the first death that kind of surprised me was Nazca. Kappa Barsavi's daughter.
Yes.
I kind of thought she was being set up to be like fleshed out.
Right.
Or, a potential love interest with Locke.
Right.
And, we meet her and we talk with her, and Locke, kind of hints that, there's, you get some backstory with them, right? That when Father Change first brings Locke to Kappa Barsavi's, and he and like Nazca have that interaction where he drinks some of her beer and like pledges his life to her. He pledges to be the Pizon, and when she's the Garista in the future. And then, a couple chapters later, she's dead and brought to Captain Barsavi in a barrel of horse piss. I was like, Jesus Christ, that is.
Man, that was a really tough scene. That was really, really shocking. And even though, the book had already kind of set up Sabitha as this other love interest, I was really hoping to see something happen between Locke and Nazca.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping the book would go the way of, he would like work his way up, and there would be somehow the Kappa Barsavi would die, and then Locke would take his place. And so when that scene came where they were going to get married and he was going to become the next Kappa, I was like, oh man, like this would be sick if Locke became the big guy, and then that's how the first book ends. And then we go on to the second one, and he's doing like high level stuff.
Right.
And I was really hoping for that, but sadly, we didn't get it.
Yeah, that was a shock too. That first death was a shock. And that's kind of like, so it made me hate the Grey King. I was like, this guy's a fucking bastard.
So we hate the Grey King because he's a bad guy. But what did you think of him as a character, like as a villain? He wasn't. Let's hear from you first. What did you think of him as a villain?
Well, so I remember when, I think it's Bug that first name drops the Grey King sort of offhandedly when he's talking with Callow and Galdo and Locke in their temple, and he just sort of mentions it like, oh yeah, maybe something about the Grey King, and then Callow and Galdo kind of scoff and are like, that business will be over, before the month is out.
Right.
And so like when I first read that, I was like, oh, I wonder if that was just like a statement, or we're going to find out more about the Grey King. But then you very quickly find out more about the Grey King. I was like, oh, interesting.
Right.
And I guess he remains sort of a mysterious figure for a long time. You don't really fully understand who the Grey King is, or what he's trying to achieve, or why he's trying to achieve it, rather, until near the very end of the book.
Right.
So I guess for me, he kind of played a mysterious role.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say he's not like, he wasn't the best villain in terms of being memorable, right? I think there were a lot of reasons that he was a good villain in this book, because there were a lot of reasons to hate him for what he did to the characters in this book.
Right.
But there was an air of mystery about him that was sort of removed once you learned that he had a Bonds Magi that was most likely doing all this stuff for him. Like at first, when you hear all these stories about the Grey King, you're like, what is this guy, and who is he, and how can he supposedly not die and not be stabbed, and how can he commit all of these blatant brash murders of Kappa Barsavi's top people, and then his fucking daughter? Like, how is this possible? So it's like that made me like interested in him. And then the veil kind of gets removed, and it's like, oh well, he's got a fucking trick magician, like a
right. I would say the Bonds Mage was definitely way overpowered, and it did take kind of the mystique away. I feel similar to you, but one of the things that I did like about him was his motives, his backstory for why he was attacking like Kappa Barsavi's like thieves guilds and his daughter and stuff. Was that who was it? Now I'm forgetting. Was it Kappa Barsavi who had killed his merchant father?
Yes. So Kappa Barsavi and the spider, Lady Forcenza, they had essentially Kappa Barsavi was going to take out this merchant house, and Lady Forcenza, the spider, allowed it to happen. She sanctioned the murder, essentially.
Right.
And so he was going to kill the entire family, but the servant stole away the Grey King and the two sisters that Jean killed, the
Berangia sisters.
That's the one. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I liked getting that whole backstory, and it kind of put Caporazza kind of on this revenge plot kind of thing. And it was like, oh, well, given the circumstances, like he went crazy with it for sure. But given the circumstances, like I can understand if this Kappa Barsavi kills your whole family, essentially,
right.
like I could understand holding a grudge and wanting to get back at him in the worst way possible.
Right.
But then he kind of steps over the line and tries to attack the nobility.
Yes.
And I was going to ask you about that. What did you think about how at the end Locke kind of grew this conscience and was like, I got to save the nobility? Did that throw you off at all?
No,
No?
it didn't. I thought it was in line with Locke's character.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, because ultimately, Locke is a scoundrel, right? But
Yeah.
he's a scoundrel. He's not a heartless killer.
Right.
And I think we were talking hundreds of people, like 600 people, and he's like, I think it was a kind of a defining moment for him as a character when
that's a good way to put it.
The Bondsmage gives him this option, and he's like, it's no option at all. Like, it's not an option. I have to go back to the tower.
Right.
And so I think maybe up to that point, a lot of the readers, we would have kind of wondered, like, what is Locke going to do? But that point kind of defined him as like, this is who he really is. He's a scoundrel, but he's not a heartless bastard. So I wasn't surprised too much.
I would definitely agree. I've just heard on other podcasts that there's been people who are like, what? Like that ending didn't make sense. Like it seemed like it was out of character. But I'm definitely with you. I think that it was more of like a growing moment for him, and just realizing that, that he needs to save these people, and that did you kind of feel like he was starting to really like the Salvaras?
I did. It was funny. Like, I loved.
I just want them to be friends. You know what I mean?
I loved when he came back after punching Lady Borchenza in the face, and he's like, evening, Sylvia, or whatever it is, Sophia. He's like, evening, Sophia. Lorenzo, how's it going? Like, just like all casual with them. It's like, yo, you literally just punched an old lady in the face and stole thousands of their crowns. He just is like, I just pictured him tipping the hat, like, evening, Sophia. How's it going, Lorenzo? Like, I was just like, oh my God.
That was so good. I love that whole scene. And just such like a redeeming moment where he gets there and it's the Salvara's bodyguard who catches him first.
Conte,
and he's not going to take him up. He's like, I'm going to throw you right in jail or whatever, or put you some sort of holding. And he convinces him to let him upstairs. And as soon as he gets upstairs, he's able to like it was for the right reasons, but he's just able to bend anybody to his will. And you hear people multiple times in this book and the other books, like, don't let him talk to you. Like he can talk you into anything.
Yes.
And he gets everybody, he gains everybody's trust by telling them about the statues.
Yep.
And then he does the switch where he tells them that all the gold is in the piles of shit on the other barge, and to set the other one on fire. And so I'm like, he gained up all this trust and then used it to do this other thing that he wanted to do. That's
why he's a scoundrel. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a funny twist. I kind of thought he was going to try to get the money back somehow, and then I realized it's like, okay, it's the death offering.
Yeah.
Hell of a death offering.
Yeah. I was not expecting it to be the death offering. I thought that when he was doing all that, I'm like, oh, he's finding some way to make off with all this money. But it shows where his, kind of loyalties lay at the end of the day.
Right.
He's like, I don't need the gold. I'm going to give it to as this death offering, because he truly does believe in the 13th god. Like, a lot of people see it as a joke, but Locke Lamora takes it very seriously.
Yes.
And so he's like, no, I'm going to give him a hell of a death offering, and he believes in it. So
right,
he does. And then the Salvaras become the next spider. Remember that
that was interesting. Yes.
Lady Fercenza or whatever makes them the new head of the Midnighters.
Yeah, 2 people. Yes.
That was really cool. I thought the Midnighters were cool in general. I wish we had seen a little bit more of them, and I'm sure we will in future books. But I thought that was a really cool kind of like the Strikers from King's Dark Tidings.
It's true. Yeah, it's kind of a secret police sort of thing, spies. I mean, it was fun when they impersonated.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They used that to.
That's what I was going to talk about. That was like one of my favorite scenes in the whole book was them getting into the, like, infiltrating the Salvaras and kind of just going through that whole thing, knocking out Conte with the hood,
Yes.
And then kicking him in the ball, or he kicks Locke in the balls, and then they kick him twice in the balls.
Yes.
And what was what did Locke say? Because Callow asked him, he's like, "How are you feeling? Like I'm about to give birth through my asshole," or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, I don't remember the exact quote, but that was such a funny scene. It was funny how they set that up how the author set that up too, because the very first part, you don't realize that it's Locke and Galdo that were impersonating. You just think it's 2 people that are like, "Hey, watch out for the thorn," and you're like, "Oh shit!
Oh shit!
Yeah,
like they just fucked up everything," and then turns out,
it's like, oh shit.
Do you think that they needed to do that? Do you think that they needed to dress up as Midnighters to like really sell it, or do you think they could have just gone on with the game?
I think they didn't need it, but I sort of think that he would have had to actually spend some of those crowns more than he did to kind of produce results.
That's true.
So for the Salvaras, right? I mean, they're gonna want to see this ship, know, like, what cargo did you buy? Where's the records of that? What's the manifest? I mean, he would have had to go to a lot more effort to sort of fake the whole thing.
Right.
Whereas this way, the Salvaras were like, okay, man, the Duke's secret police told us to just give him money, so we're not going to ask too many questions. And we're going to be like, yeah, here's money for whatever you need.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
All right, should we talk about some of these quotes?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Okay. So one of the first things Chain says to Locke is, "You're more crooked than an acrobat's spine,"
which is true.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I've got one that I just love how. I'll read this one. I love how Scott Lynch sort of just describes certain characters just casually.
Yeah.
Like often his descriptions are very hilarious. And I don't know if it's, the narrator's way of describing it, or it's sort of through, Locke's lens of how he would describe people.
Right.
But there is one that I really liked. So it's when they're in, so after, when Chains tasks them, do you remember when Chains tasks them to get a corpse?
Yeah.
To bring him a corpse, and then Locke goes the extra mile, brings him a corpse, but also gets their money back for what they paid for the corpse. And so they stage this whole thing, and they stage this whole thing of a priest of Perilandro being robbed. So then there's a scene that says, "Someone robbed the initiates of Perilandro, the boys who helped that blind priest." And it says, "A florid man with an overachieving belly and an entire squad of spare chins wobbled up, with a walking stick in one hand and a wide, wicked-looking hatchet. Pissant rat fucker bastards, such an infamy in the Vindenza in broad light of day." And it's just like that. For some of that quote just made me laugh. It's like, man.
Oh yeah.
A florid man with an overachieving belly and an entire squad of spare chins.
It's such a good description.
Yeah, I love that one for some reason.
Oh, good.
No, that's it. Yeah.
I loved, this wasn't a quote that one of the characters said, but it was just one of the, just like the narrator telling us what's happening at the event. And it was when Locke and the Salvaras were sitting down and drinking, it's when he brings out the cast of like the 502 brandy or whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they were people fighting the big monster in the water or whatever. And you know what I'm talking about? Like all the people are fighting the monster to get a reduced sentence. And the quote goes, technically they were armed and would receive lesser sentences if they could somehow contrive to slay whatever beast they were matched up against. But the beasts were always at least as nasty as their weapons were laughable. So mostly they were just executed.
Yeah, and there's so many good moments like this where it's just kind of witty and clever. It's just funny. It's like, oh man, this is hilarious. There's so many little moments like this throughout the book that make it, just really good to read.
Oh my God. What was the one about there was another one. There was another one right after that in the same scene where Don Salvaro is drinking the super expensive brandy, and he says, "It seems almost sacrilegious. Despite the sentiment, the Don took a deep gulp of the stuff, satisfaction well evident on the lines of his face. In the distance behind him, something that might have been a severed torso soared through the air and came back down with a
just like kind of casually while they're drinking fine liquor, like, yes." What was that? Oh, it might have been a severed torso. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh my God. I love that so much.
Yeah. No, that's another good example of just the wit in this book. And then you know, again, I love the wit of Locke and just his sort of brashness and audacity. Like the nice bird asshole, eat hemp and shit rope bonds mage, and that, you know, that comes immediately after the narration of the bonds magi, like literally burning a capital city to the fucking ground that is still like a charred crater to this day, like that no one will step foot in. It's just like,
oh my God.
And actually that might be after Chains. That's probably after the chapter that Chains gives in the talk where he's like, look, you don't fuck with Bonds Match.
Yeah. Another one of my favorite scenes was when they go to the pawnbroker, and I liked that whole scene where they open up the bullshit box and they pull out this jewelry that they've just bought so that they could pawn it in front of the Kappa's place.
Right.
And then give him the taxes, because they have way more money than they need to pay their taxes, but they're taking these items that they've either stolen or bought to make it look like they're bringing in stuff that they've stolen, you know, like the stuff that they pickpocketed.
Yep.
And I just love the whole like energy of all of them. Like at that moment, it changes very soon afterwards, but at that moment, they're like at the top of their game, and they have like 40,000 in their hideout. They have all these costumes, and they have like this whole secret lair, and they're just strutting up to the Kappa's place, paying their taxes, even outwitting him, like paying him different sums each week. Like, oh yeah,
right.
this week was kind
of a tough
week.
We had a tough week this week. Yeah. So yeah.
And I just love that whole, just them at the top of their game was really great. But when they're in the pawn shop, the pawnbroker tells them, you'd steal shit from a dog's asshole if you only had the right sort of bag to put it in.
And it's true. Yeah.
I love
it's a pretty crass, you know, way of saying it, but it's true. It's
my God,
absolutely true.
And this crap is as welcome as a pile of severed dog cocks.
Yeah, that fence was a fan of the dog quotes. That was
yeah, and he even said like he said something like, I'd even prefer the dog cocks or something.
Right,
like
yeah.
And then I just love, you know, this isn't like a huge moment or anything, but I think it was when either Locke first meets the Bonds Mage or something, and it was something that Locke was thinking, and it had more to do with like how the narrator said it, but I can't remember exactly what was around it, but this sentence just fit perfectly in between all this other exposition that made it really funny. And it said, legs, legs start, or legs, let's start wobbling, shall we? I think that was the quote. I don't think I wrote it down right.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember this at all? Like,
I do, kind
legs,
of,
let's
yeah.
start wobbling, shall we?
Yeah, I'm
And it
trying to
was just
remember.
like this very flippant, like he's in a lot of shit at the moment, and he's like,
Yes.
"Oh, legs, let's start wobbling, shall we?"
Yeah, I don't remember exactly where that was quoted, but yeah, that rings a bell.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to have words with the Gray King when this shit is finished. There's a few things I want to ask him. Philosophical questions like, how does it feel to be dangled out a window by a rope tied around your balls, motherfucker?
Sounds like physics.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So funny. Oh my god. Of course, I just have to keep you here until Jean gets back.
Yeah, that was one that was repeated through the,
Oh yeah, this is my absolute favorite. I cannot betray my client, said the bonds mage. And then Locke is saying, "Oh, you no longer have a client. You no longer serve Caparaza. He hired a bonds mage, not a fingerless freak with a dead bird for a best friend."
That was
right
such
after he kills his bird.
Yes, such a satisfying quote. I was like, God, eat shit, bonds mage. Oh, it was so good, so good.
Oh my god,
so
that was
funny,
so funny,
and so satisfying.
Oh, dude, that was great.
Yeah, I got just one more from Father Change that kind of sums up Locke Lamora in a way.
Oh yeah.
So it's sort of long, but it's as Father Chain sat on the roof of the house of Perilander, staring down at the astonishingly arrogant 14-year-old that had grown out of the little orphan he purchased so many years before from the thief maker of Shades Hill. Someday, Locke Lamora, he said, someday you're going to fuck up so magnificently, so ambitiously, so overwhelmingly that the sky will light up and the moons will spin and the gods themselves will shit comets with glee. And I just hope I'm still around to see it. Oh, please, said Locke. It'll never happen.
Oh,
that's near the end of the book, and it's like
Yeah.
that just kind of sums him up. Like that's perfect.
wasn't that right in between him fucking up royally? Like that flashback happened right in between, like Locke doing something, like getting caught or something.
Well, it was right after he was pretty much like lying dead with the Grey King. So it's like right before the epilogue. So it's kind of like after things have come to resolve, but it's just like,
okay,
holy shit, what a ride. Like,
yeah, it's been a great ride.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, this book is so quotable. I could go on forever with them. And the other books are just as good. There's so many quotable moments in them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll really like it.
Good.
So we've talked about a lot of them, and we're kind of wrapping up here, but what were some of your like favorite moments when you think back on this book fondly? What were like the moments where you're like, this is the moment that I would tell other people about?
So I gotta mention it, but and you know, I favorite is maybe the wrong word, but memorable moments when Locke gets shoved into a barrel of horse piss and nearly drowns in a barrel of horse piss. That was disgusting. And I was like, holy shit. I just could not believe that was happening. Like,
yeah,
Kappa Barsavi's coming in. Locke has to impersonate the Great King. They can't stab him, but they'll beat the shit out of him. And I was surprised that they didn't kill him like just by beating the fuck out of him. Right. It's like, no, they're gonna keep him alive and put him in a barrel of horse piss alive. And I was I was horrified. I was like, dude, that is disgusting.
Oh my god.
And just the way it's described, and then they dump him down like basically a hole into a pit of water. I was like, oh my lord, that has got to be one of the worst ways to go.
Yeah, but that scene was insane. And then what are those spider things that came out?
Yeah, that the bonds mage had controlled or something. Yeah, that was kind of just like a side, like, but Oh my God, I was rooting for Jean and Bug to get Locke the hell out of that barrel. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
that is horrible. So I'll say, I'll give you two that were really memorable for me. So,
Okay.
so that one, and then the one where Locke, like right before that, Locke has to get out of going with Kappa Barsavi to meet the Grey King, because Locke is going to be impersonating the Grey King at that same meeting.
Right.
So the way he gets out of it is takes, some
Yeah.
alchemical potion and pukes his fucking guts out. And it's just
Yeah.
like moping and sobbing and dry heaving and just having a miserable time of it. And that just was memorable to me for some reason because it was funny. But
Yeah.
um
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, definitely the horse piss scene is
Oh my God. It's
top of
so
the list.
brutal. So brutal.
Yeah.
I liked when I've pretty much talked about all these, but I liked when Locke and Jean became friends in that scene. That like Jean kicks his ass and then Locke understands that he needs to like watch his mouth and like because Locke is like, not in every way, but a lot of ways Locke and I have the same problem of our mouth opens before any thought is processed. And like, dude, there's so many times that I just got my ass beat in junior high because like I would just say whatever I wanted to say and people would just kick my ass until I learned how to like, defend myself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Locke says something about Jean's parents. Like, we're all orphans, and Jean just kicks his ass.
Yeah, John's got a temper.
Oh my God. And matter of fact, I think he grabbed his collar and slammed his head on the table after hitting him in the nose.
Yes.
Yeah. And so then at the end of that interlude, Locke gives him all like this thing of glasses and none of them will work, but Jean is like thankful anyway. And then they're talking about their different skill sets and Locke is like, tell you what, I'll teach you how to steal. You'll come with me tomorrow and we'll steal you some new glasses, or I'll take you, on the town tomorrow if you teach me arithmetic.
Right.
And I thought that was just a great way to start their friendship. And it like that is so amplified over the series of the books. Like Locke is always depending on Jean, not only for brutality and to like defend him, but he's also counting on him to be the like high level intelligence. And Locke is very smart too. He's gotten very smart over the years.
Absolutely.
But he depends on Jean for the bigger stuff. And then Jean depends on Locke for the brains of the operation,
right?
And to like come up with the plan and
the ideas,
be the actor, yeah. The other one we talked about was Locke gets some new clothes at Miragio's.
Classic scene. That was one of the best.
I was gonna say if you hated every other single part of this book, wouldn't that scene make it all worth it? Like that scene was so fantastic that I think if I didn't like the rest of the book, that scene would have made it all worth it for me.
I think so. Just because you feel like I felt so bad for the waiter. I was like, Locke is royally screwing this guy over, and he does it just so casually. It was so funny.
And I really liked the quickness in which he comes up with the plan, because when it was all taking place, I was like, I have no idea what his plan is. Like, I have no idea what he's doing here. And when it all comes together, I was like, how did he think of that? Like,
yes. And we can't forget the two, I think it was two previous attempts that when he went in Miragio's the first time, like he walks in as someone else, gets kicked out. They're like, don't come back here again. And it's like the next chapter, it's like, oh, now it's a couple hours later and Locke is strolling up like, hello guys, like wearing a different costume. And like he even like goes as far as to fuck with the guards where they're where the guards like, can you write? And he's like, only with or he says, oh shit, I'm forgetting, but he says something like, can you write, sir? And he's like, oh fuck. He says something about being wrong, right? Like it's right and wrong as opposed to just writing fucking it up.
Oh, he said, can you write, sir? He's like, yes, I can, except for when I'm wrong.
That's what it is. Yes, except for when I'm wrong. And the guy's just like, not impressed. He's just like, okay.
Yeah.
Get inside. Yeah. It's like, yo, you just got kicked out of here. You're just fucking with the door guards. Like, yeah, that was a great scene.
Oh my god.
So many little moments like that again, though, that are just so funny.
So good. The other one that I really liked, and honestly, I can't remember a lot of the details of it, but when him and Jean are climbing down the trellis and
Yes.
they end up in that lady's apartment, and
that
then
was really funny.
Her boyfriend or husband or whatever comes in, and it's like this huge misunderstanding. Like, we're just trying to get out of here. Like, we're just trying to leave. And it becomes like this huge misunderstanding. And I think Locke says, he's talking to the guy and he's like, no, you misunderstand. She came before we did. And like, he's talking about like her arriving before they did.
Right.
And it just makes everything so much worse.
Yeah. No, that was a great scene. And that lady turned out to be like fucking nuts. Like she's like trying to screw everybody over. Like
she's like, will you guys kill him for me? Or something like that.
And they're like, what? They're like, what? No, like
yeah.
That was a really funny scene.
Oh, all right. Well, any other moments or anything you want to say about this book before I ask you this final question?
I think that's it for now. You know, there's so many moments that we could probably talk about and then I'll probably think of later, but yeah, we covered a lot. So I think that's good.
Yeah, I think this was good. So my big question is, what do you hope to see in the next couple books? And what do you kind of like what do you hope / expect to see?
You know, I want Jean and Locke to live an honest life and settle down and, you know, get good jobs. And no, you know, I really want to see them kind of get back on their feet and recover from what they experienced. You know, I want them to kind of have some semblance of what they had originally obtained, because I feel for them and what they lost. You know, it's like that, you know, their friends and their fortune and their setup and their livelihood, right? So I want to see some semblance of recovery. And then, you know, I also am curious about Sabbatha. I would like to hear more about her. I'm also curious what the fallout from the Bonds Magi might be, because they didn't kill him, but you know, I feel like they could get angry about you fucking one of their kind up pretty badly. So I'm curious about that. But yeah, so like I said, the main thing is I want to see Jean and Locke kind of recover from this, or at least be on the road to recovery and see where it leads them. A new adventure, I suppose.
Right. All right. Well, yeah, I think, you know, I think you'll enjoy the next couple books a lot. And like I said, they're just popcorn books. You know, there's story to them, and there is still like an overarching story that gets them like moving, like gets them from point A to point B.
Right.
And is like, you know, makes sense canonically. But mostly like, I would just put aside like any super high expectations. Not that you shouldn't have them, but like put aside like whatever you think is going to happen and just enjoy the ride.
Okay.
Because the next couple books are just fun. Like, because and the reason I say that is because I read the next couple books, and especially in the second book, I was like kind of upset.
Oh, really?
Because I was expecting, my expectations were super weird though, because I was expecting like this huge like high fantasy kind of storyline where everything like it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and like it becomes this huge big thing. But that's not what this book series is. And once I just kind of sat back and really enjoyed the story and enjoyed the characters, things just became a lot more fun for me.
Okay.
So just enjoy the characters and have a good time.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, that is pretty much the end of it for Lies of Locke Lamora. Chris, thank you so much for taking time out of your Tuesday night to hang out and talk about this wonderful book with us. I can't wait to talk about King's Dark Tidings with you.
Me too.
And in the year 2023.
Yes.
And to talk about these books when you read them too. That's going to be super fun. And I really, really hope that you will read the Scythe series, because I know for sure that you will like them.
Okay. Yeah, I've added it to the list.
Nice. All right. Well, is there any other books you can think of that people should check out that you have on your list that you've read, or anything that you would recommend to anybody?
Let's see. The books that are on my list currently are all the books that you've recommended. So
Okay.
yeah, I think I'll hold off any recommendations for now.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody, you can join us next time. Hopefully there won't be another filler episode. We're gonna move on to Scythe for our next episode, I believe. Like I said, it's just a lot bigger than we remembered it being, and we want to be able to talk about everything. So our notes for that episode are like a mile long, and we want to be able to discuss the whole thing in its entirety. So let's wrap this up. Thank you all for listening to our discussion on the Lies of Locke Lamora. If you'd like to help support the show, please remember to like and subscribe down below, and feel free to leave us a comment or two if you'd like to participate in the discussion, or if you'd like to suggest a book series or topic for us to cover on the show. You can also check out our Twitter profile. Just look up the Fantasy Files podcast or @Files Fantasy to join in the discussion there. All that being said, thank you so much for listening to the show. We'll be back next time with a discussion on the Scythe series by Neil Schusterman.
God, eat shit, Bonds Mage. Bullshit magic.
Yeah.